Let's freaking go. Today we are chatting anything and everything SEC football. It is SEC Live. It's your friend Power Hour SEC. Well, that's not my name. My name's Carter, but this is Power Hour SEC. And you guys probably know the schedule by now. Tuesdays and Thursdays, we go live on this channel at 6 p.m. Central. Okay. Now, I want to chat about Alabama versus Texas and this idea that Tyler Booker is the spokesperson for the entire Alabama Crimson Tide program. And I have seen so many. What's up, Tyler? Good to see you. I've seen so many fans come out and say, well, the Alabama standard is gone. We lost who we are. We lost the physicality of what Alabama used to be, okay? It is perfectly fine to not use that same excuse over and over and over again. And I understand it is easy for former players at Alabama to say, well, these guys just don't have the same fight as we used to. And I get it, right? Because yesteryear is always better than today. And we got to get back to that old school Alabama mentality. The reason why that is so easy of an excuse to make is for a few reasons. The first is that it doesn't single anybody out. Nobody wants to specifically just say the quiet part out loud. And that's what I'm going to do today. All right. And it also makes yesteryear the golden age as if it's just as simple as everybody just screwing their head on right. And there was a video of the tight end doing an Instagram live after Alabama lost and saying, oh, look, I got 700 people in here or whatever. It is none of that. It is okay to just admit that Nick Saban has lost a little bit of his fastball, like we have been telling you on Power Hour SEC for a while. But more importantly, he made an absolutely disastrous decision to go with a young offensive coordinator in Tommy Rees, who only got his first offensive coordinator job because of nepotism. He is a nepotism baby. You hear that all the time in acting, right? There are so many famous actors and actresses in Hollywood that are the sons and daughters of famous actors and actresses, right? I tend to think Denzel Washington's son is a very good actor, but there is a reason why he gets the jobs that he gets, right? There are so many examples of just that, okay? And Tommy Rees got his initial job because of Brian Kelly. And I understand I'm an LSU guy, and I understand I'm an LSU fan. Anybody that follows my LSU stuff knows I'm never just totally in lockstep with my head coach. But it is the truth. Tommy Rees, when he left Notre Dame as a quarterback, tried to make it in the NFL, and he didn't make it. So he became a coach, and he had a few stops in the NFL as like a game ops intern or whatever. But his first real coaching job came when Brian Kelly hired him back. And then Brian Kelly eventually made his former quarterback the offensive coordinator. So the Alabama job is actually his first job he got based on merit. Okay. Now, I'm not saying he wasn't a good candidate for Notre Dame. I'm just saying that that is the reason why he got that job. And the point I am making here is Tommy Rees is not ready for this. The game plan made no sense. And the second part of this is Jalen Milroe's just not that good. It's okay to admit that. It is perfectly fine to admit that. All right. Jalen Milroe can't throw, and Tommy Rees did not have a game plan for Jalen Milroe to succeed with a quarterback in Milroe who is an unbelievable runner. It's either him or Jaden Daniels in the SEC when it comes to the most potent quarterback with his legs. And Jalen Milroe wasn't doing a whole lot of that. They were trying to make him make full field reads, and you saw what happened. He threw picks. So we go to Danny Girl here. Tommy Rees is a concern for sure at Alabama. Yes, and I'll also say this. Has the offensive line not been as good as it used to be under Saban? Yes. guess what? Bryce Young's offensive lines weren't that good either. The skill guys at Alabama, they're not as good as they used to be. And something else, I'm just going to say this, the common denominator in all of this is Nick Saban. Quinn Ewers, all right? Quinn Ewers is a 5-star quarterback with a lot of talent. But anyone that has watched him for an extended period of time will tell you that Quinn Ewers, for the most part, has been very underwhelming outside of when he's played Alabama. Before he got hurt in the Alabama game last year, he was fantastic. This year, his performance versus Alabama is by far the most important quarterback performance this year up to this point in the season. Okay. So why is it that Quinn Ewers had success versus Alabama? Is it Quinn Ewers truly is this transcendent 5-star quarterback? It might be, but could it just be that Steve Sarkisian knows how to pick apart a Saban defense, which he kind of has now for 2 years in a row. Now, I know they only scored 19 last year, but Ewers got hurt, and then Hudson Card, the backup, got hurt too. All right? So the truth is this. Saban and Tommy Rees got out-coached. All right. And Texas deserved to win that game. They dropped easy touchdowns early in that game as well. They were the better team. It's okay to admit that and not have a 1,000 former Bama players saying, well, we lost the Bama standard. Maybe some of that is true. Maybe it isn't. I don't know. But I've been telling you, there have been cracks in the Nick Saban armor when it comes to coaching this team. Now, when it comes to recruiting, no problem there. Nick Saban's the best recruiter of all time. Anyone that disagrees to the contrary is just lying. All right. So a lot of this is on Bill Rowe. A lot of this is on Tommy Rees, but a lot of this falls back to Nick Saban. And I do agree with you, Dante. And by the way, Dante just became a patron on the PHL channel. We'll obviously show him some love tonight. But look, if you're Alabama, I don't like everyone piling up on Tyler Booker here. All right. This is one thing I cannot state enough. All right. On my LSU channel, I don't just have anybody jump on the channel, right? I'm very particular about guests. And the reason why is because being a guest is hard. Not everybody is compelling. Not everybody likes to be in front of a microphone or in front of, cameras or whatever. But it's not as hard as what Tyler Booker has had to do for Alabama. Okay. He is a true sophomore. All right. And he has started in his first couple of seasons at Alabama. What happens when you are a true sophomore and you're speaking on behalf of the most illustrious program in college football history with a legendary coach, a program that is clearly in some type of decline? All right. You begin to worry. You begin to start thinking about saying the right thing. And all I think Tyler Booker is doing is trying to say the right thing. All right. So last week he said he said something along the lines of the Bama standard is back. We're practicing hard. We're physical. And just in the last 48 hours, he said, well, I think we didn't practice as well and we're not as physical as we used to be. A clear contradiction, right? It's because he's nervous. He's nervous. He's 18, 19 years old, speaking to a bunch of people that do not look like them. They're standing behind a camera. It's the press, and you can get so coached up to answering all these different questions. It's intimidating. So I am always very sympathetic to any student athlete who says something in a media scrum setting. Now, if he's in an interview chilling with his friends or whatever, it's a little bit different. But I've spoken to players about this in the past. If you're in a media scrum and you're talking to a bunch of people who are in their 40s and 50s, a lot of them don't talk like your coaches. They don't look like your coaches. They don't look like your teammates. They don't look like the people you're normally around. You sometimes don't always say the right thing. You just don't, right? And I don't think we give athletes enough credit for when they have to speak to the media, because it is hard. It is really, really, really hard. So I'm tired of hearing all this Bama standard BS. The team's just not that good. Saban isn't as good as he used to be. The quarterback isn't that good. Bryce Young can't put the lipstick on the pig, if you will, which are all of Alabama's deficiencies. And they made a really bad offensive coordinator hire. Now, that doesn't mean Bama can't turn it around and actually win the West. This was a non-conference game versus Texas. Texas very well could be for real this year. But it's silly, some of the stuff I've seen, just absolutely silly. So, yes. Now, I do want to bring up the Tennessee-Florida game going into this next weekend. I do find it interesting that Tennessee didn't just come out and blow out Austin Peay. I do think it's important to note that there are probably more so now than ever SEC teams that have played absolutely nobody in the first 2 weeks. There are a lot of teams that have played nobody through 2 weeks. All right. Kentucky hasn't. Arkansas hasn't. And of course, Tennessee hasn't. All right. And there are some other teams that have also had some weak schedules, but we'll focus on those three. They have played not only not so great programs, we're talking about programs that are at the bottom. Okay. Virginia football has never been as bad as they are right now. Never. And Virginia lost to James Madison. And then, of course, Tennessee played Austin Peay this past weekend. And look, Tennessee's offense is the most quarterback-friendly offense in all of college football. I really do not think Tennessee is playing their right quarterback. Now, should they keep Joe Milton in? Yeah, we're 2-0. He's an experienced quarterback. And maybe I am overrating Nico and thinking that he is ready when he's not. But when I tell you he was my number one quarterback prospect, I really did believe it. I thought I was watching something special. I think at some point, and it could start this weekend versus Florida, that Tennessee is going to think about maybe, just maybe, we don't have the guy that gives our offense the most upside. I think they're going to stick with Joe Milton. I still like Tennessee to win this weekend versus Florida, but I'm just going to tell you, I am not sure if they're playing the right guy. I am not sure. Okay. And it is interesting because there are a lot of SEC teams that are playing their first SEC game on the weekend. Okay. So we'll just run through these games and we'll take any more questions here. Let's go to Go Bro. It's kind of weird seeing seeing his lineup as QB. I get it. It's his position, but it looks like the Wildcat. Yeah, I mean, he's so special as a runner that maybe he is playing the wrong position. And he's a unit. He is an absolute unit. Do we know if Tommy Rees was calling plays at Notre Dame under BK or if it was BK calling those plays? I asked because once BK left that little bit under the new head coach, he struggled. Yeah, you do wonder. I do think Brian Kelly made it pretty clear that he let his OC do the calls when he was there, right? So it is an interesting, a really good one. Let's take a look at the SEC. And once again, I want to be clear here. Don't pile on Tyler Booker. I get sick and tired of seeing people pile on students when they say something, as long as they don't say something egregious. But yeah, give the kids some sympathy, right? It's difficult to do it. Now, you wonder why I want the SEC to go to 9 games? This slate of games isn't the absolute best. Okay, it's not Ole Miss's fault that Georgia Tech fell off a cliff. It's not Arkansas's fault that BYU isn't as good as they once were. But really, the only 2 games this week in the SEC that we would consider to be interesting is Tennessee, Florida, LSU, Mississippi State. Of course, a whole lot's going to be made of South Carolina versus Georgia, Missouri versus Kansas State, and so on and so on. But yeah, it's very, very, very interesting. I do think Tennessee Florida is going to be the most compelling game. I could see LSU Mississippi State being kind of an ugly game. I could see Arkansas having a tough time with BYU. The Arkansas tape versus Kent State was not good. It was a lot. And you guys know my love affair with KJ Jefferson. It was a lot of KJ just kind of pushing Arkansas through. And one crazy stat when I was putting together the video was KJ Jefferson had the best quarterback grade from Pro Football Focus in all of college football this past weekend. And the film backed it up. He had some absolutely ridiculous plays in this game this past weekend versus Kent State. But I will say, if you do have Arkansas coming up on the schedule, you should feel pretty good about their film. They look very average across the way. And maybe BYU exposes them. So there you go. Now, we'll keep it going here. Once again, if you want to super chat, go straight to the game you want to talk about. I am thinking about expanding this channel to cover all of college football because I love college football so freaking much. And I don't just want to be limited to the SEC because, look, I get a lot of questions about Prime, okay, and Deion Sanders. I freaking love that story. I am loving the Clemson story. Dabo Swinney. Is this the end of the Dabo reign? Is Dabo or Deion the next coach in Alabama? Obviously, the biggest story in college football is the Mel Tucker story. What the heck is going on with that? So I'm thinking about expanding, covering more topics, covering all of college football. If you guys would prefer that for this channel, you guys let me know. Okay? But once again, Dante, thank you so much for joining the Patreon. Goes a long way, man. You're a really good friend of the channel, too. AP's in here, so go ahead and fire those questions in. We'll talk about any game in the world of college football. And let's just go ahead and just look at the top 25 here. By the way, this year on my every Friday, I will release a short on this channel sharing my favorite plays of the week. And so far, I am 2-1 on the season. I did pick Alabama, Texas under the total. That game barely cleared over. And I did tell you to take Arizona to cover the spread versus Mississippi State. And they did that with flying colors. In fact, they should have won the game. And I also gave out Texas A&M -3, but that was just on Twitter. It wasn't really an official pick. So far, if you want to say 2-2, that's fine. But we are 2-1 on picks. And throughout college football, you can take a look. Not a whole lot of sexy games, right? I think Minnesota, North Carolina's low-key interesting. Let's see what else here. Not really a whole lot. Not really a whole lot. Yeah, not really a whole lot here on the slate. We have people complaining about a 9-game conference schedule. Bring it. Florida State 26-point favors versus Boston College. If you're an LSU fan listening to this, oh, snap. Ronnie D, welcome to the channel. South Florida with the upset of Alabama. Man, Ronnie D coming in hot. Type Y for yes. Type N for no. You heard it here first. Okay. Let's go to AP. And I saw LA Mom bring this up in the PHL Discord about picking games against the spread. All right. Maybe I should start doing a little bit more gambling advice for people that don't fully understand how point spreads work. No, Ronnie D, hey, stick with it. Stick your chest out, man. Let's see it. I'll stick my hairy chest out and say it. USF for the W. We can at least pick them to cover the spread, right? In the name of Jason Pierre-Paul, USF for the W. in the name of Jason Pierre-Paul, or should I say, in the name of Jason Pierre-Paul. If only a few of you probably got that joke. In the name of Jason Pierre-Paul, they're going to get the job done. Ha, 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 ha. Okay, so let's talk point spreads. And let's chat what all of this means. Okay, so this is the Score app. This is not a sports gambling website, but what I can show you is something called all right. All right. And I'll go over what all this stuff actually means. All right. I'll go over what some of this stuff means. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you what like a sports book would actually look like. This screen is a little busy, but I'll just show you anyway. Now, the one thing that people get wrong about sports betting, all right? All right, so LA Mom says, see, I don't know what it means for a team to cover the spread. All right, so let's take Navy versus Memphis, all right? Memphis is minus 14.5 versus Navy, who's plus 14.5. So these numbers will always reciprocate each other. Plus 14.5, minus 14.5. They will always reciprocate each other just on a basic game total. All right. So essentially, what the Vegas odds makers are telling you, LA Mom, is they are predicting, well, not necessarily predicting, but they are giving you a chance to win money straight up here. If Memphis beats Navy 21-0, Memphis covered the spread because they beat Navy by more than 14 points. Okay, that's why it's negative 14.5, minus 14.5, whatever you want to call it. They beat them by more than 15 points. Okay. But let's just say Memphis won the game versus Navy 21-7. All right. Navy lost the game by only 14. Okay. So that means Navy covered the spread. All right. The spread is this number right here, minus 14.5. It will always be this number. Okay. If Navy loses by 14 points or less, or they win, you win the bet. Okay. If you bet Memphis 14.5, they have to win by 15 or more for you to win the bet. Okay. So that is simply what that means. Nothing more, nothing less. All right. Now, these numbers underneath, if you're just now starting out, aren't really that important for you to understand, but it is a very important thing. Okay. And that's a little bit more advanced. And this is where they get novice bettors is the 110, the negative 110 means the juice. All right. So the way it works, and Ellie Mom, I'll actually just get on a call with you in the Discord for the LSU channel, and I'll go deeper into what that means unless you guys want me to explain what that actually means. Simply put, you don't just walk up to a sports book and say, hey, I want to bet $5 on Memphis to win by 15 or more. All right. In theory, in theory, you have to bet more than that. You have to bet like $7.50 to win that $5. That's what the minus 110 is. It's the juice. Okay. So minus 110 is pretty even across the board. And you want to try your best to get minus 110 or a plus number there. But that gets more advanced. And what that essentially means is the juice, or some people call it the VIG. It's hard. Now, AP is basically saying the same thing here. You're basically giving Navy 14 and a half points before the game starts. Exactly. So there you go. That's essentially what it means. Just to make sure we're all on the same page. So a lot of you are LSU fans. LSU is a 9.5 point favorite versus Mississippi State. So they have got to beat Mississippi State by 10 or more points for you to win that bet. Okay. And it's tough because LSU has not played well on the road, and that's a lot of points for them to cover in a very hostile environment. Okay. So to me, that is not a smart bet and not a bet that I would make. All right. As much as I love my LSU Tigers and as much as I actually like them in this game, it's not a bet that I would make. What's up, Jared? Good to see you. Now let's get to a few more. I do have a birthday party that I have to go to before my LSU stream for a little bit. Yeah, I know. I get invited to parties every now and then. But yeah, I've touched on everything I wanted to touch on tonight. We'll have more on the Thursday night live stream. Mm. You don't like Chuck E. Cheese parties? Yeah, I don't like the animatronic. I don't like those things. There you go, LA Mom. Look at you, the super sharp. Well, Mom, if you have any questions, let me know. I wish I was like you. So far this year in college football, what? I think I'm even on the few plays that I've made. So, all right, guys. Don't forget, if you're watching this, I will be live on the LSU channel tonight at 8:15 Central. So we will see you there. Okay. And yeah. Yes. Power Hour. SEC. Boom. And tonight we are doing Haley's making something called a magnolia plate. I don't even know what that is. Well, she's not making it. She's actually picking it up from a restaurant. Let's go. Huh?